This is Eric from Pack Hacker, and today we're going to be taking a look at the ALPAKA Metro Pouch, which I've been testing for the past 2 weeks. If you find this video helpful, make sure you subscribe to the channel so we can continue making content to help you travel smarter. Let's dive in. So the exterior on this pouch is very durable and it's also water resistant, and that's because of the 410D ballistic nylon shell. So I think it looks very professional. It does have a little bit of a shine to it. We have a light, directly above and then right there. So you can see the light kind of hitting it in different ways, and it's a little bit shiny, but I think overall it looks very nice, and it's quite water resistant, and that's aided by obviously the material, but also because of these AquaGuard zipper tracks. So these zippers are from YKK, and all of the zippers on this thing obviously just have these 2 zipper tracks, have the AquaGuard finish on it, so it helps keep water out because it, you can't really see the teeth as well, so it just kind of keeps water at bay. Something I will note is that, so the main compartment here has just one big zipper track, but it's got 2 zipper heads, and so if you kind of look closely there is a small hole between those heads, which I get why they wanted 2 zipper pulls there, because it can you can do whatever you want with the zippers. You can put them on one side, put them on the other, if you only want to open part of the pack or something like that. But that hole feels kind of like an Achilles heel to me, especially when this thing is very water resistant otherwise. The pulls are a little bit plasticky. I think, like, in a good way, they're pretty easy to grab onto. When they get wet, they're a bit slippery, but I do like that it has this little plastic tab there, because you can kind of grab onto that if it is wet and you need to kind of pull on them. There's a bit of texture there, though I'm not sure how well you can see that, but there is texture on there to grab onto as well. And so we do have these closures on the back, which I'm about to go over, but I just wanted to talk about the actual closure systems before I talk about how they work. So one of them is just this button here. It's very snappy and it holds very well. At no point when I was using this did I have this come unsnapped, and it's just very snappy and doesn't come undone when you don't want it to. And then the second one here is a hook and loop fastener. It doesn't have much surface area, so it can't grab onto larger items so well, but the actual hook and loop fastener does very well. It's very strong, especially for how small the actual surface area is, as I said. And then the only branding that I've been able to find on this thing is this, on the outside at least, is this ALPAKA logo here. So very minimalist, especially because this is going to be, against your body or against your bag most of the time. So obviously, if you look on the front here, not much branding, and just overall very sleek looking. I have it stuffed full right now, so it might seem a bit bloated, but you'll see what I have on the inside in a moment. So we've got these 2 attachment loops on the back, which basically, you can run a horizontal strap through this vertical strap and it'll hold it, or you can run a vertical strap through this horizontal strap and it will hold it. But you can also use them in tandem, and the best way to show that is with a backpack. So I borrowed Ahmad's backpack. This is his Wandered backpack that he comes to and from work with, but it's got a little loop right here. So I'm gonna run the vertical strap through that loop. And then I'm gonna make sure I undo this hook and loop fastener before I secure that. So I'll pop that button on there. Oh, so now the button's on there, and then I'm going to loop the hook and loop fastener around the shoulder strap and get that as tight as I can. So now it's really hooked on to that shoulder strap. It can move up a little bit because it is on a kind of like that strap has extra space up there. But while you're wearing it, it kind of falls into its natural lowest position, and that's where it's going to sit. So you're kind of at the whim or the mercy, I guess I should say, of where your straps on your backpack are, or where the loops on your shoulder straps are. But you could also do that inside of your pack or on like a crossbody bag too, if it has those loops. You can also use the hub keychain, which I have attached to my shirt so I don't lose it. And this has just a little piece of metal here that hooks on right there. And then you can just use this clip to attach it to different things, or they have like a rail system. You can attach it onto the rail using that little tooth right there. So that's another piece of gear that's sold separately you can use to attach to this. So when it comes to secondary compartments, there is just this one vertical zip here for this front pocket. Something to note before we even go inside is the placement of the zip. So if you have this mounted on a shoulder strap and you have it on your right shoulder strap, you can really get in there and see, while you're wearing it to get stuff out. But if you want to have it on your left shoulder strap, it's harder to see because it is out of your line of vision. So you kind of got to just rely on your fingers, not your eyes, to get inside of there. But I have my wallet stuffed in there right now, just so you can kind of get an idea of how much space there is in there, and it really is taking up most of the room inside there right now. But the main reason that was so hard to get out of there is because when I put it in there, it was pretty easy, but I didn't have anything in this main compartment. And then I loaded the main compartment up and it made it harder to get stuff out of this front pocket. And the reason I wanted to do that is to kind of illustrate that there is a wall between these, a shared wall, and it is pretty malleable. So it moves around, and if you have like one of the pockets overstuffed, it's going to affect the usage of the other compartment. But something that we are seeing for the first time here, at least in this video, is a 210D ripstop liner, and that is high vis orange, so you really can see things a lot easier inside of there, and especially if it's a darker color. If you have something that's the exact same color, it might not help so much, but it does help seeing things. And this pocket overall is a pretty good size to fit like your wallet, or if you want to put your keys in there, or if you have your AirPods, and you can fit those in there, and it is, you know, quick access. This main compartment is pretty quick access as well. There's a lot more organization inside there, so you kind of got to pick around things to grab stuff. But this is just one big compartment, and something that I did note that is not normally a huge thing, especially if there's just one, but there is a loose thread in there, and you can really see it against that high-vis interior there. And that's the only loose thread that I've noticed on this pack, but it's just so noticeable because of the high-vis interior. It is a good showcase of the high-vis interior, but it's also, you know, you can really see the loose thread there, but a good spot to put your quick use items inside there. And now we're going to move on to the main compartment. So the zip on this compartment opens about, I'd say 3/4 of the way around this pack. It's a rectangle, so not just a square. But it does make it so you can really get a good look at stuff on the inside, but there is a gusset to keep it from opening all the way, because if you were able to open this just completely without the gusset, and you had something like heavy in here that wasn't taking up the whole pocket and you flipped it open like that, it might fall out, and then if it was electronic, it could break or something like that. So the inclusion of the gusset is nice, but it does stop you from really opening this thing wide, but you do get a pretty good look at the stuff inside of there. So I'm actually gonna take the stuff I have inside here out right now, because I just want you to be able to see everything as I'm doing it, and this thing is so small that it's kind of hard to do that. And I'll explain what I had in each place. So on this front wall here, we have these two liner pockets, and I had just an AirPod case inside of here. It is, because there isn't anything in this front pocket right now, you can fit quite a bit of stuff inside these two pockets, but if you do shove a bunch of gear inside the front pocket, that malleable wall I was talking about kind of pushes through and gives you a lot less space. But for the most part, while I was using this, I was also using it as a wallet. So I had my cards stuffed inside here, like my credit card, my debit cards, and any ID cards I needed. And I also put my key fob in there as well. And then the pocket in front of it, I put my cash, and I also put my keys in there. So if I needed like an actual metal house key, I put that in there. And because I normally had stuff in this front compartment, it made those two pockets a lot tighter. And that's why I was able to put a key in there without worrying about it, you know, swimming around too much. And just everything really stayed in place nicely. And as you can see, we have that same orange high vis on that side, but then moving to the back side, we do not have that high vis, we just have the black on this side. And I'm not really sure why that is. Maybe it's just to do a contrast from the front side to the back side, but I think it would have been nice to see the high vis on this side too, just for visibility's sake, as I said. But on this side, we have another big liner pocket on the back here. And that is actually where I initially put my cards, because I felt it was a safer place to do so, because it is on the back panel, which isn't going to be bending a ton. And on this front panel here, if you were to, you know, stuff your cards in there and then stuff a bunch of rigid gear in here, you could bend your cards. It didn't happen to me while I was using it, but that was my initial worry. So if you don't need to use your cards all of the time, you could put them in here and then just get them out when you need them, because it's kind of blocked by the rest of the gear. It's kind of harder to get them in this pocket than in this front pocket. But just below that, we have these two elastic pieces of material there, and that's where I had my pocket knife just sitting in there. And I really like the inclusion of the elastic, because you can fit kind of awkwardly shaped items that wouldn't necessarily fit in any of the other pockets. But one of my gripes, I would say, with these is that there is a pocket just below it that's just a little small pocket you can see there. It's good for like dongles and other small things like that, or actually I put SD cards in there a few times. But if you put things inside of the elastic and they're a bit taller, like my pocket knife, they really want to slide down and like sit inside that pocket. And if you did have something more fragile, like an SD card, and you kind of, you know, poked it with a metal knife, I know SD cards are fairly durable, but you obviously don't want to be doing that. And you can get around that by being smart and like guiding it, and like when you're putting it in, kind of like angle it that way. But just not super ideal, and depending what you put in there, you can get around it easier. But if you want to put something larger like that in there, it may poke whatever you have in the bottom pocket there. And one last thing to note about this main compartment is that it doesn't fit a phone, at least most phones. So this is my iPhone 11, just sliding that in there, and you can see that it's sticking out of the top. It's just pushed down as far as it can go. So if you have an older flip phone, or if you have one of the new Android flip phones, it may fit inside of here. But if you have a standard phone that doesn't turn on itself and fit inside, it's not going to fit in here, which honestly made this a bit hard to use for me, because a lot of times when I use these, I feel like it's for my phone and then my EDC stuff, but your phone is not going to fit inside here. And also smaller gear can kind of get lost inside the middle there, just because it is so tight on the bottom and you really can't see in there, and there's a bunch of gear on top of it. So that's just something important to note too, that if you have smaller gear, try and lock it down in one of the pockets, otherwise you might not know where it's going to end up. So there you have it, the ALPAKA Metro Pouch. Thanks for keeping it here at Pack Hacker, your guide to smarter travel. We'll see you in the next one.